We continue our look back at the debates you may have missed from key midterm races across the country. Now we go to Michigan, where Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Republican challenger Tudor Dixon Tuesday night, their second and final debate. Right now, Whitmer up around 3%, according to the Real Clear Politics average of polls. Dixon's been closing the gap, though, over the last month when Whitmer was up by 11 points. Abortion expected to be a top issue in the election, in part because there is a proposal on the ballot that would enshrine abortion rights in the state's constitution if passed.
When the Supreme Court decided to upend it and overrule Roe, Michigan was poised to revert back to a 1931 law that makes abortion a felony. No exceptions for rape or incest, throwing doctors and nurses in jail. The only reason it's not in effect right now is because of my lawsuit.
The people will decide what they want to do on abortion rights in the state of Michigan. Abortion rights will be decided by Proposal 3, or it will be decided by a judge. We already know that that's the case in the state of Michigan. The governor has the most radical opinion of abortion.
One of the moderators asked the candidates if they would accept the results of the vote on that abortion proposal.
And will you accept that as the will of the people?
Absolutely. I've said that from the very beginning. There are no laws that I say I think that I'm more powerful than that.
But Whitmer then brought up Dixon's refusal to say if she would accept the results of her own race and her claims that Michigan's Secretary of State somehow broke election laws in 2020.
I will always accept the will of the people. I think you're asking a really interesting question, though. When you say, will you accept the will of the people, I think that is a question that should be posed to Mrs. Dixon. She refuses to accept the outcome of the last election. She has not yet said she will accept the outcome of the next election.
I would like to comment on Gretchen Whitmer and her demeanor tonight, coming after me, calling me an election denier. We know that this is going to be the way the evening goes, but I'm wondering when she will say that she can't run with Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist anymore, because I would believe that he is also an election denier, since he came out in 2017 and asked for a recount.
She never said she would accept the results of the vote for governor. Before the debate then shifted to school safety. It was held one day after a teen pled guilty to 24 counts, including 4 counts of murder and 1 count of terrorism in connection with a high school shooting last November near Detroit.
I would like to have armed security at our schools. I would like to make sure that we have a one entry point. I would also like to implement some of that plan that talks about how to identify a child that struggles with mental health. We need an Office of Safe Schools, like states like Florida have, to make sure that this is a top priority. And if we had implemented the 2018 report from the state police, we might have saved lives.
Governor Whitmer explained her policies and referenced a school shooting Monday in St. Louis where a gunman killed 2 people.
There was a school shooting in Missouri yesterday in a district that had exactly what she just described. One place of entry, armed guards in the school district, and people are dead. We've been trying that for 30 years. It's not working. It is time to try proven policies, background checks, secure storage, red flag laws. I'm not talking about hunting. I'm just trying to keep our kids and communities safe. Ask yourself, who's going to keep your kids safe? The former prosecutor with plans or the candidate with thoughts and prayers?
Dixon also spoke about books that districts are trying to ban, which she supported.
What I've heard from parents across the state is inappropriate content in school libraries. That's the biggest concern that I'm hearing about. And we're talking about sexual content. We're talking about pornography in schools. Parents have risen up across the state. They've asked Gretchen Whitmer to comment, and she's been silent on this issue.
Whitmer then responded.
Do you really think books are more dangerous than guns? Like, do you really think that books pose a greater danger to our kids than gun violence does? Mrs. Dixon is trying to distract us.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.